Hey, Xcapaders! Welcome to the Xcapade to Xpansion podcast, where we hope to help challenge the mind, heal the body, and elevate the spirit on your journey of self-discovery. Are you ready to expand?
Hey, Xcapaders! Welcome back to another episode. Today's episode is sponsored by Empowerment Counseling and Training Services. ECTS recognizes that true healing begins from within and focuses on the whole system, mind, body, and soul. We are furthermore committed to the philosophy that we all must embrace change or be consumed by it. We stand out from the rest by forging a partnership with our clients and creating a trusted family atmosphere. ECTS is 100% committed to helping you reach your goals. For more information, visit empowermenttoday.net. All right. Today, we are going to talk about mental health, the stigma behind it, and what hurts it. I am Tisa, and I'm joined by my lovely three co-hosts. You want to introduce yourselves?
I am Jessica Devine.
I am Jean-Voana.
And I am Angela.
So today's hot topic is going to be mental health. And as we know, since the pandemic, mental health awareness has been on the increase because depression, mental disorders have kind of been on the rise. But I kind of want to question that and say, are they on the rise, or are we more open to discussing them more, and have we become more aware of them and people are more comfortable actually doing something about it versus before the pandemic?
Mm-hmm. That was a great question. That was a great question. Generationally, I would say, because we are more open, they have, as far as society, our generation, the Gen X, millennials, are more open about their stuff, right? Previously, the older generation, baby boomers, they're called the silent generation. And so when we really look at titles or how gender or how societal norms play a part in mental health, I think stigmas are cultivated based upon those societal norms in that generation. And so because we were born into a generation where we are not afraid to talk about what we go through, we are more open to talk about what we go through because we believe in the healing process, So I believe that what you are stating is a valuable and it's a valid fact of being more open versus closed.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I like to say that it's a little bit of both. I really believe it's both, right? Just thinking about what I had to deal with growing up versus what my kids have to deal with growing up. Yeah. It's a lot, right? It's a lot of, differences. Of course, because of the internet, because of social media, these things I believe were happening, but now we're able to receive the news real time and being able to process those things, having children, see these things and wanting to understand why this is happening. And not even having the support maybe within their family or someone that they can talk to help them process what it is that they actually saw. I mean, I'm as an adult who feel like I can pretty much process some things, right? Mm-hmm. Some of the things that I see, I'm like, what in the hell? So it's one, I do believe it's definitely on the rise, I also say about this generation, they're a little bit softer than we were, right? Some of what they're unable to handle, some of the things that, previous generations or even my generation was, kind of able to handle. You hear about, a lot of the bullying. It was a rites of passage to get bullied and, almost, you know what I'm saying, in school. And I wasn't talking about taking myself out based on being bullied. Mm-hmm. So the one part of, yes, I do believe it's definitely on the rise. The need for the help, it definitely needed, but the openness as well. I think they realize we did not deal with we are dealing with some things that you all did have to deal with. So we have to go another route about, attempting to heal ourselves or to get answers. So I believe it's a little bit of both.
I think, and I also, I think it's a testament to our generation. When you think about it, we are the first parents who take mental health seriously, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I asked a question the other day when I was having a conversation about parenting. How many they're all around our age, how many of your parents have been to therapy? None of them have, right?
Right.
Even still,
They took it to God.
yes,
That's
still
it.
do, right?
And they still do.
Still do.
Yeah.
Trying to get our parents' generation to go seek mental health help is almost impossible.
Exactly.
But us, we're really the first generation that has taken our mental health seriously, and it
Seriously.
shows up in the way we parent.
Yes.
And I think that that also is why our children deal with less than what we had to deal with, right? I don't think we normalize as many things as our parents did, right? I think trauma is still very much a real thing in this world, but I think because of our healing, our children are impacted less by our trauma, our BS.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I look at it as we're in the age of Aquarius. This is a new age. It's an age of enlightenment. So therefore, it's like the veil is thin. Nothing can be hidden. And we even see it in the media where everybody's being uncloaked. Baby, if your wig is on, it's getting snatched. Everything
Right.
that's being done in private is coming to the light. So even with mental health and what's going on within people's lives,
That's it.
everything is coming to the light. And I know we beat up on the younger generation and say, y'all just show everything. But they're showing the truth. A lot of it has always been going on, but it's been done in the dark and the quiet.
Yeah.
So in this age where the veil is thin and nothing can be hidden, everything is on the table to be discussed. And I think we're moving from simply surviving to thriving. And people say, well, I no longer have to just tough it out and just move through life surviving, but I actually want to thrive.
Right.
Because if I'm simply surviving, there's no point of being here.
Right. Right.
And, even with the younger generation, we say, yeah, they soft. And I don't think it's that they're unable to deal with things. I think they're unwilling to deal with things.
I agree.
Because they feel like, why? There's other choices. I think the other generations, they kind of felt like, well, we just got to push through and make it through. And that's the difference between surviving and thriving.
Right.
So I love the younger generation because they speak their
appreciate
mind.
them. I appreciate
Yes.
them.
And they're refusing to deal with anything less than what they deserve.
Right.
Well, that's we gonna have to talk about that
It's
from a
a
parent's perspective. I was about to say,
I
as a
love
parent, I understand where you're going with that, with the what they deserve. Some of the asses is entitled.
Yeah.
Let's be clear.
Yeah,
Your ass deserves to have a roof over your head. I'm
Yeah.
supposed to feed you, but you don't need an iPhone 14. You don't need me to take you to school every single day
Yeah.
when the bus comes and pick you up. You see what I'm saying? So let's talk about what they
But
deserve.
hold on,
Is
but
the other side of the
There's
deserve.
always that duality,
Yeah.
but this is the first young generation where they're saying we make our own way. How many millionaires are under 25?
Yes.
A lot of them.
A
Like
lot of
they are serious. They're
Yeah.
saying, "Hey, we don't have to do the route that we were taught to do. We're going to make our own path." Now,
Right.
yeah, there's always going to be the stragglers that just getting on our nerve. But I just love this younger generation. They're full of energy.
They are. They're lively. They are expressive.
Yes.
I believe that mental health has had its stages.
Yeah.
And when we're talking about stigma, if you just look at the word mental health, I always wondered why there was a stigma attached to mental health, right?
Right.
And so it's supposed to be something that allows us to be healthy in the way that we think. But why has it become a stigma? And the progression of it throughout the history is that look at the way that they treated people, look at the way that they treated our people when it came to, really handling the generational trauma, right? And even now when we talk about, institutionalized centers, even in Maryland, Kennedy Krieger, Shepherd Pratt, how do they treat people? They treat people as the disease or as the disorder, right? Versus just the individual, right?
True.
So,
I think also with the stigma, of previous generations, they felt that depression, maybe just feeling unenthused about life. They feel like that's just normal. Mm-hmm. And I think the newer generations are like, this ain't,
There's something wrong with this, right?
80, 90 years doing this.
Right.
There's more to life.
Right.
So it's like that stigma with the older generation be like, you all right, nothing wrong with you. It's like, no, something is wrong with me. Something's off.
Yeah.
Well, I think when we're talking about the generational trauma, of course, we have to point back to slavery, right? Mm-hmm. How were they able to survive during those periods of time? Yeah. When it was time to go out there and work, how you felt. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So what you're going through, we got to push that aside and get this job done. And I feel like that continued to be handed down, not understanding the evolution. We got to rethink. We got to look at our new environment and then adjust accordingly. Yeah. I don't feel like that was done. And because we had the silent generation and the generations before, we couldn't question them. Like, well, why? Right? If we had an opportunity to pause, which is what the younger generation is doing, they're asking questions. They're asking the why, which causes us, especially as parents, on the other hand, to say, you know what? You got a point.
Absolutely.
Well, I don't really know why. It was just that I was told that. So now they're, quote unquote, bucking the system. And I believe we actually started to buck the system as well. Yeah. You know, like our generation, we kind of sat quiet, but in the back of our minds, we like, nah,
this ain't right.
This ain't right.
Yeah.
And we also, most of us made the promise, when I have my kids, I'm not going to do the same thing.
Right.
So I think it started with us when we started to, you know, say something ain't right and I'm actually going to do things a little bit differently. Yeah. I think we opened the door and our kids bust that shit down. They like, all right. Okay, you said, like my mom, and I think we talked about this on other podcasts before, how, you know, my children are able to come and talk to me about things. And she's like, well, why are they talking back to you? They're not talking back. Yeah. We're having a conversation. Yeah. This is about communication and getting an understanding of one another. So, yeah.
I also think about how we still have certain mindsets in our community that hurt mental health or people accessing mental health, right? If you think about the things that we see on social media, think about how many people made fun of Tyrese when he broke down, when he was going through the situation in custody fighting for his daughter. Everybody making fun of him, right?
Yeah. Kanye.
You think about if you read the comments on when people share things on social media about what they've been through, it's so many comments in our community that's still very much keep that to yourself. Why you putting it on social media? Especially like I've seen one about somebody sharing that they were sexually assaulted by somebody that was in power and well known, right? And there were so many comments like, you know, that's not for social media. Why would you put it on social media? Well, they're sharing their experience so that other people know who this person is, right? It's mindsets like that I still see. That I'm like, this is why. That's not.
That's why it hurts.
You guys remember the when we were younger, hearing happens in his house stays in his house, right? That mindset is still very. We just call it something else, right? No, that's why so many people were molested by family members and grew up, and it was nobody ever talked about it, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So what hurts is silence.
True.
Silence.
True. And I think we're in that shift. And y'all remember we spoke about the loudest something is when it's at its death. So it's like a lot of things are shaking up and we're transitioning where we're open with what's truly going on. But there's still a lot of people that's stuck in the old way. So they're going to be pushing, they're going to be shouting, they're going to be, but hey, we're still pushing. We're still pushing forward, you know? And also, I think religion plays a big part.
Absolutely.
Because it's almost like you suffer here and you'll get your reward
there.
in heaven.
Ooh, I made a whole
And
post
it's
about
like,
that, y'all.
and it's like the younger generation's like, nah, we want our heaven as
It's
on
on
earth,
earth,
you know?
right, right.
We want it now.
Yes.
You know, so
Absolutely.
it's like the older generation, they just felt like, look, just take it, do it, and once you pass away, we gonna be good.
Oh my gosh, that is so good. I literally, y'all, have been, and I cannot wait to post this this reel because and it and where I am right now is it literally it bothers my spirit, right? One of the things that the Bible says is to study to show yourself approved, right? That means, and it also says, my people perish for the lack of knowledge. And we take that we hear it a lot and it sounds kind of trite, but you got to learn this thing for yourself. You cannot expect the person, the human that's on the other side of that microphone or the other side of that pulpit to always be on point and to teach you pure righteousness and truth. There's too much humanness involved in that, right?
Yeah.
And we give them so much authority and value and weight as to what it is that they say. Now it's up to you to go in there and study and research and learn that thing for yourself. And one of the things, and though I'm making light of like the reel and having a good time on it, you know, how I do, right? The song, the background of the song, the soundtrack to the song is "I'm unavailable." Y'all heard that yet? Okay, it's so cute. But I started to when I heard the song, I started to think about boundaries, right? And how we don't set boundaries and how we look at self-care and how we give so much of ourselves and we feel like that's the Christian way, right? This self-sacrificial, you know, everybody else matters more than I am. But the thing about it is, if you understand the word of God, there is balance there. There is a lot of talks about self-care and boundaries. And I provided scripture to, you know, it literally says in there, don't give your treasure to dogs. Don't give your pearls to pigs because they will trample upon them. That is saying be discerning as to who you pour into. There's scripture after scripture that talks about you love your neighbor as yourself. You got to love yourself, right?
Yeah.
There's scripture at the scripture that talks about the importance of, hey, I didn't give you this word in order for you to be hard pressed and them relieved. It's in the Bible, but they don't focus on those things, right? They teach the other side of that so others can reap the benefit of it. And we have to do a better job to stand up and say, yeah, I get religion, I get what it says, but what does it also say, right? What does it also say? And I believe because of the whole, again, going back to those times, they use parts of the Bible to control us. And it still happens to this day. And it's up to us to say, you know what? It's more to that Bible verse than that. It's more context that need to be connected with, you know, give willingly. You know what I'm saying? Come on, stop doing that, right? But it's ultimately, I take responsibility. And that's what I said in the post. I'm going to take responsibility because I can't just listen to what it is that you say and think you're saying this just for my betterment. No, there's some other things involved in there. So, yeah.
So when we're talking about what hurts it, we're talking about silence. We're talking about probably lack of education behind it. As you were talking about religion, it just really made me think about even you were talking about let's, you know, peel back the veil. Even how these churches are now being exposed.
Oh, yeah.
That Dalai Lama thing, did y'all see that?
That one.
Too much for me.
I didn't
Along
actually
with us-
see it. I didn't.
Yeah,
but I
saw like the
pieces of
picture,
it.
but not the actual video clip.
That
I didn't want to watch the
Right.
video clip.
I
Yeah,
said,
that
I know.
it did.
I need to go watch it.
did.
I saw a response to the Dalai Lama thing, and I think I sent it out or
You
something
did.
like that,
I don't
but
wanna
I
talk
didn't see
about
it.
it.
No, please stop
It's
about
too
it.
much for me.
So it's way too much.
And it does. It's heavy because what we have to understand is that when mental health hurts then that means that there's something wrong. It's not an alignment of what we need to do in order for us to come to a place of agreement of what mental health is today.
That's a good one.
You see what I'm saying? Because it is a progressive thing. And so when you're talking about the Dalai Lama, when we're talking about these churches, when we're talking about whose responsibility, because there is a responsibility when you're talking about mental health. You're talking about your own responsibility to research what it is for you that you want to resolve, what you want in alignment with yourself. But religion does play a part, and that lack of self-education also plays a part in regards to what hurts. Educate yourself.
I also think the words we use when it comes to how we describe other people who are going through mental health challenges. I was reading a story. I was watching a YouTube video about this boys' home that was, it was, I can't even remember what state it was in. But anyway, it was a boys' home for boys that needed discipline or they felt needed discipline. They either got in trouble with the law or even children who struggled with mental health, but they didn't know that it was mental health, right? And they used to, or even when we were younger and our, somebody seemed not right.
Right.
We ain't know what
And it's like, he got a little something on him. He ain't right. He got a little, like, what is that? Why do we, you know what I mean? But really being careful with how we, the language that we use when we know that somebody is struggling, even when we talk to them, right?
Yeah.
I know I said it on here before, but I don't like using the word suffer in terms of when we talk about mental health. I like to use the word challenge or experience, right? Something they're experiencing. Just being mindful about the language we use when we talk about people who are, even ourselves or people that we know are struggling.
And even with being mindful of the language, I think we have to be careful with what we identify as. Because whenever we say I am,
The labeling of it.
we are merging ourselves with that thing. So when we say, well, I'm a manic,
manic
depressive,
bipolar,
I'm schizophrenic,
schizophrenia.
like stuff like that. It's like, well, no, you might be, dealing with that. That might be a challenge.
Right.
But don't merge yourself with these illnesses. That's not the fullness of you.
Right.
But when you take on that label, it does become your full identity. So we have to be careful what we say after I am.
Yeah.
To that point, I also think it's important to understand that what you experience is not who you are.
Yes.
Some people stop themselves from going to seek help or even admitting that they are experiencing something or have a challenge because they wrap their identity in that. You are more than, your challenges with depression.
Right.
I think that's important too.
Yeah, they come to me, and members come to me, individuals come to me, and they are already pre-diagnosed, right? And when they come to me, it's kind of like, I have to unlearn, re-educate. This is not who you are. But that's what they told me. That's what my mama told me. And then I said, is that what your mama told you, or is that what the doctor told me? Both, right? And so they start living in that identity.
Yes.
And sometimes you have to unlearn that. And it takes a while to unlearn, and it takes a while to reprogram that this is not all who you are. Just like you said, you're challenged with these. You have to navigate now.
Because it comes a level of acceptance at that point, right?
Yes.
Like, I'm supposed to operate like this, and I'm supposed to feel this way because I am this thing,
you literally
right?
manifest.
Yeah,
you start
exactly.
living in it,
Right.
manifesting it.
And you were told before that acceptance, you were told that. And so you believe that.
Yes. And what you believe is your reality.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I also would love, I don't know how we get here, right? But I'm thinking about the people that I know that may have a challenge with anxiety or depression or things that may need medication, right? And I used to think this way too because I had a mother that was an addict. I was always super fearful of ever needing medicine for something, right? And when I was struggling with panic attacks really bad, and I was in a period where I could no longer self-control them, ground myself. The thought of getting on medicine like freaked me out. Like I was like, I don't, in my mind, I was automatically going to be addicted to pills. I don't know why, right?
Yeah.
But, well, I know why because my past with my parents. But I would love for there to be more conversations from people who actually take medicine about how it helped them and taking the stigma, the fear away. I think the more that people can talk about their experience with medication and needing it, and even coming off of it one day, the more people will, if they need it, be okay with taking it. Because I know a lot of people, not personally, but we hear stories about people who may need, some form of medication who either stop taking it because for whatever reason they don't like the way it makes them feel, or they don't take it but need it because they have fears and stuff like that. I think that's a barrier in terms of people getting the help that they need.
I agree. And I believe another, just thinking about the community that serves the military, right? The people who work for the 3 letters, any of those types of agencies. I have quite a few veterans that have, I've coached, and just knowing some of them personally, their clearances are affected if they talk anything close to mental health. Anything, anytime. Oh yeah, they are, it's not a good look. And a lot of them, more than anybody else, probably need that type of support. So, they're more amped to come to me as a life coach versus a therapist.
Right.
Because those things are documented. They're,
they're regulated.
And it's so unfortunate because what it is that they experience in that community.
I was going to say that's almost, how hypocrisy.
It's very exactly
mental health stigmas. That
the stigmas, as we're talking about the stigmas,
it's unaligned.
People sign up to
it is
literally
so unaligned to get
life,
help.
right? And what they have to see and deal with, and
it is.
Unaligned.
I'm telling you, and that's what made me think about the stigma is a part of the government saying, if we get an inkling that you've even just for proactive reasons, they can't even, they can't even go through that whole, take away their livelihood because immediately it's associated with they're going to crack, they're not going to be able to handle, they're not. And you would think, right? And I was actually attempting to figure out how, because it's always a thing of, how can you fill a void? Like there's a gap there. And I was attempting to work with a couple of service members and figure out, hey, what kind of program would be acceptable, right? That we could provide that support and a stigma not be associated with it. What would be okay from their perspective for you to be able to get the support that you need? Just have a damn conversation.
That's
right?
it. Yeah.
So there's a lot of stigma associated with service member and
so
Stu,
I'm probably
he back there
Right.
shaking his head like so,
it works excellent for VA disability, but when you're active in the service, no.
Active,
because you kind of are a high risk, so you might lose certain privileges and certain clearances because it's almost like if something happens and this was documented that you already had mental issues. So it's kind of a double-edged sword in a way.
Even though it would be probably more helpful than hurtful, to say before they even get to this point, let us provide some type of support to them. They experience something, let them process it with someone so it won't push them over the edge, right?
I agree.
A lot of them are burying,
within the military culture.
It's a whole nother.
It's toxic.
I'm sure.
There's a lot of SA. There's a lot of racism. There's a lot of nepotism. There's a lot of just people abusing power. There's a lot. There's a lot that goes on. So
But the reason why I really bring that up is, for a branch that's so powerful, and we're talking about how do we kind of what hurts, mental health. Now, if it comes from the top down, like start there, right? And then it should be the expectation that others will follow. But if we can't get things right there, then geez, we're definitely in some trouble.
In some trouble. And for, even within our community, the licensed community, for us, we are always talking about how to move the needle in regards to integrative care. And we say that because, again, our society, westernized society, is not pro-life. It's not pro-choice, right? And so when you're talking about stigmas traveling with you, and it being something that, just like you said, for the veterans, it's a need. How can you not, for someone and an individual that's sacrificing their life, putting the life on the line for the country, that you can only have limited resources when it comes to that? Like, it's not pro-life. And so now you have to think about other ways to be able to help them outside of insurance, right?
So when you say we're not pro-life, I agree with that. Our society is not pro-life. We don't really care about people. We care about power, domination,
capitalism,
money. And
popping
as
them
long as we
pills.
can get you to do what we need you to do, we don't care what you got to say about it. And specifically with the military, which is like a micro culture, it's about trying to break you in order to reprogram you so we can do, you can do what I need you to do. We don't need you to think. We need you to do. So, it's a lot of toxic culture everywhere. And anytime you see like government entities, it's going to be full of toxic culture.
Yeah.
So that's something else that hurts us, right?
The list goes on and on.
Yeah.
I think I'm not actually sure how many. I don't know the process for like mental health professionals being in schools, or what schools they get designated to. I know that the county that my son goes to, they just did some type of program last year where they there was an initiative to put a certain number of mental health professionals in the elementary schools in our county. I think that if that's not already being done, that should be like a big initiative that us as a nation should and could take, placing more mental health professionals inside of schools. Because a lot of kids, they don't have anybody to, one, there's parents who aren't paying attention to their kids, right? which is the number one issue. And then you have kids who aren't comfortable with talking to their parents, right? That they don't have anybody to talk to. They're not comfortable talking to their peers. So giving them an outlet to talk to someone, or even teachers having resources to somebody to talk to in the mental health profession when they have children who are struggling in their classroom and they don't necessarily know if it could be something. Having the teachers having a resource like that as well.
Yeah.
Part of that is of course, educational system being so outdated and not really for the best interests, much like the rest of the Western. You know what I'm saying?
Gotta be slaves.
Right, exactly.
Right.
But the good thing about that is since healthcare is a lot more affordable and out in the open, specifically mental health services, like you can be on TikTok and Instagram and you'll be like, you'll see, the therapist on there, you'll see Angela on there, you'll see other services saying, hey, this is affordable. If you need to reach out, contact us here. So it's no longer just at hospitals and maybe schools, but it's out in the open and it's a little bit everywhere. So I like that. That is more accessible these days.
Yeah, but it's still the mindset that's holding us back to reach out to say, does that mean I'm something wrong? Something's wrong with me, right?
Right.
Versus, and it's so interesting. And I guess, again, it's the programming. We have these vehicles, we have these homes, we have, even for our physical health. Like, for the most part, I know a lot of people, they don't care about their physical health. They just live life however. But for the most part, if something starts hurting on your body for too long or something, if there's a physical sign of that, they're going to go to the emergency room. And I didn't see some of the, we can't put it on a class. We can't, no. If something's not right with you, you're going to go get it checked out. But we don't do the same when it comes to our mental health.
Yeah.
Something's not right here. And maybe that's it. Maybe they don't understand that something is not right. Maybe they've been living life that way with all of the confusing thoughts and all of the voices and the race. This is how it's always been. So maybe they've adapted, or let's talk about, maybe we've adapted ourselves to that. So maybe it's not necessarily something is wrong with me. Maybe I feel like this is my baseline. This is my norm.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what you don't know.
I think it's the programming. I think we've been programmed since we were children and on to believe that being depressed, feeling down and out of luck and just going kind of through life mundane is normal. So if we're not surrounding ourselves with positive-minded people that are happy and thriving in life, we think it's just normal. We think it's normal to be depressed. We think it's normal to hate our jobs and hate our lives and just wait till the weekend and then back to Monday. We think it's normal to, this life is supposed to be miserable. Wait till I get to heaven. We just think it's normal. It's the programming. It's the programming that has kind of been shoved down our throats since we were children, and we see it on the TV. We hear it on the radio. We see people always complaining. That gets the most attention. We see negative things on the news all day long that keeps us in these states of fear and depression. So we almost feel like it's normal. And we kind of look down on people that are always happy and always positive. We're like, they crazy.
She telling me that.
Right.
Like,
They
she
crazy.
done the most. She done the most.
Did you watch the news? Because you too happy. You should have watched the news this morning and you wouldn't be that happy.
Right.
So it's just like, we actually think being positive and living and thriving is the illness.
Isn't that health? Isn't that mental health at its best?
So it's the programming that we're fed. And that's why I don't own a TV. It's like you turn it on and it's murder and craziness and rape. And it's just like, we'll turn it off.
Yeah.
So we're going to add environment to that, too, to that list of what hurts
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, the environment.
Yeah.
So I remember looking at this study about the projects, how they first established the projects, where the projects was originally established for middle income white families. And when they lived in the projects, it was beautiful. They kept it clean. It was fruitful. But then they started moving the white people to the suburbs, and the people of color started coming to the projects. And it was almost like a project to see like how, I guess, low they could get. So they didn't keep up with the properties because they wanted to study like what happens when you put all these people in this little tiny community and you don't keep it up. Like, will it spread? Will the illness spread? And this is why in a lot of projects and low income communities, you'll see they're all set up the same way, and they all have the same issues. And mental illness
Runs
runs rampant. But you don't see that in the suburbs, not in the same way. You might see it in a different way, but you don't see where the environment leads to a mental break of the mind.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because how can you see the beauty of it when every time you look outside, there's
And
drugs, there's,
rats,
exactly,
trash.
like, they said wherever your awareness goes, that's where your energy flows.
Yes.
So it's like, all I see is this. Well,
Yeah.
what am I expecting to get back from that?
Absolutely. Being in Baltimore, right? Being in Baltimore for so long and loving my city, at a certain point, it got too much for me and my family. It was heavy. And they even, at one point, they coined Baltimore as the city that was in crisis and continues to be in crisis. So what do you expect the people to do and how to behave? Right? They behave in crises. Every little thing that's wrong, it triggers them to survive, not to live.
Absolutely. Definitely. One of the things that I said As I was growing up, of course, in Baltimore City, I've seen several people shot and killed in front of me. I've been into some stuff myself, you know, full transparency, not doing the right thing, gangs, you know, I've been through quite a bit myself. And one of the things that I said, and I thank God, because my daughter, my first daughter, she saved my life. She saved my life. I said, I cannot continue to live like this for her. I had to move her from out of the surroundings because, again, the environment is definitely, if you allow it, it'll suck you in and you'll feel like that's your only way. You'll feel like that's your only choice. That's all you see. You don't see anything outside of that. There's so many people that are within Baltimore City confines and really a lot of other cities that's never been outside. DC is 45 minutes away and they've never been to DC.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? They've never been to Virginia. They've never been to New York, and Delaware is right across the street from us, you know? So you think this is all there is. So the environment definitely impacts, you know, your mental health. You have to be willing to make the decision as to whether or not you're going to accept it or you're going to step out on faith and explore and say, you know what, there got to be something better.
And I would even say, you know, I'm big into energy. A lot of people don't realize that places, homes, states, cities, they have energetic signatures.
Absolutely.
And when you go into certain places, like for instance, San Francisco, it just feels like a lot. Feels like a lot. But then you'll go and maybe go outside of San Francisco and the energy is more calm, more peaceful. You go into somewhere like Baltimore and it's a lot. And not only is it because so many people are condensed within a small space and their energy is kind of creating the overall signature in that area, but it's also like, what is the norm? If drugs and prostitution and low frequency activity is the norm, it's going to be a low frequency energy. So when you go through there, it's almost like a wave of depression can kind of pass over you. And then you get out of it and you're like, oh, what was that?
I feel it. That's it.
Lexington Market was where they would port in anyway. So that's where they sold. That's where they sold slaves at. So that is forever kind of
In that area.
It's forever in that area. That's why you can see the neighborhood crackhead. I mean, he's not going to tip over. She's not going to tip over.
They're not going to fall.
She's, you know, their foot is to the ground and their head is close to it, but they still standing up. It's like you said, it's that energy. It is forever there. And no matter, even though they knocked it down and they rebuilt it and it looks beautiful, that energy
It's still there.
It's still there.
And it's like, if you're not grounded, if you're a person that's kind of, like the Bible says, wayward, you know, floating back and forth, you can find yourself being drowned in the energy because you're not able to separate what is you and what is that outside of you. So a lot of times people go into certain environments and they'll start feeling the depression and feeling negative.
Right.
And they're like, well, what is going on? Even like, I really don't like clubs because I go in and I immediately feel the lust. I feel the desperation. I feel the loneliness and I need anything. I need anybody. And it's just like, ugh.
It's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot.
So it's like being grounded. And regardless of where you are, even if you got to be there just for a quick little moment, making sure that you're not immersed in that energy. You know?
That's interesting.
I wonder, I think we were having the discussion about race and stigma. When I go and get my nails and feet done, you know, we're talking about even mental health with, you know, my technician. She's Asian. And when you're talking about cultural belief within mental health, they don't know anything about mental health. When we're talking to maybe Hispanics or Spanish, you know, they don't really know anything about mental health. It's just hitting them. The Indian culture don't know a lot about mental health. It's foreign to them because they have adapted a way of dealing with their mind, body, energy, healing. They use other methods, right? So where do we see mental health prominent? Is it in race?
That's a good one.
I think it's more of possibly societies versus race.
Different societies.
Yeah, like for instance, Japan. They say they
Japan.
have a big thing of people killing themselves, just jumping out of windows.
Yeah.
And they say it's because the culture is so, it's all about production. And if you're not producing, you're useless. America is really kind of all about, capitalism and production. And if you're not in those two, you're useless. Other societies that are very simple about their way of life,
Yeah.
they don't really have as much,
It's not as much pressures that the pressure.
it's not as much
Yeah.
pressure.
Right.
It's not as much as feeling like you're useless if you're not producing these type of things. It's just like, well, we enjoy life one day at a time versus you have to have all this money. You have to be doing this.
So it's the fact that value is being assigned to a way of life, and if you don't meet that mark, therefore, it causes this extra pressure on you to want to give up or just act out. I think that's one side of maybe the mental health. That's maybe a trigger or something that is circumstantial.
Yeah.
But what
Trigger's a
about
good
the
word.
trigger's the good word? Okay. What about the things that are, maybe in your DNA,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Some
what
of
I
the
was thinking.
things that are just ingrained in something's not connecting, right?
Right.
There are some challenges there. So there's that part of the mental health discussion as well, and the stigma that's associated with
And they
it.
call that the epigenetics.
Yes.
Not
Absolutely.
epigenetics, understanding something that has happened in your generation that is not visible, but you don't know why you're dealing with it. And so that is the epigenetics of your trauma, that you're dealing with something that you never knew about. You're just finding out that, shit, something's wrong.
Yeah.
And now I have to find out what's going on.
Okay. So maybe that's a good thing for us to add to the list. What hurts it, and I guess it kind of goes back to that education component. There are different things that could fall under that umbrella of mental health.
Yeah.
Some of those things are genetic. Some of those things are maybe triggered by trauma or maybe it's situational or circumstantial that causes those breaks.
Yeah.
And instead of us lumping it all in something wrong with you,
Right.
now let's get down to the heart of the matter
Right.
as to what is causing that.
Yeah.
Even in life coaching, when I do my consultations, there are some people that I literally say, in order to move forward, we have to partner with a therapist.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like I can, you know what I'm
Yes.
saying? Like
Yeah.
it is my recommendation, here's my scope of work. Here's what
Right.
it is that I can assist you with.
Yeah.
But there is more that I hear that I'm not credentialed to assist you with. And I want to ensure that you get the help and the assistance that you need.
Yeah.
Other times I can say, this anxiety that you are experiencing, it's probably because you're on edge. You don't know what's going to happen in the future.
Right.
We can address this by creating a strategic plan of action.
That's it.
And then that helps to ease the depression. Oh, you hate your job. You spend 12, 14 hours a day thinking about your job. Of course you're going to be feel depressed.
Exactly.
Your
Yes.
boss is a misogynistic pig.
Right.
Of course you're going they are right. You know what I'm saying? So there are
Right.
certain
Right.
things that are circumstantial
Right.
that
Yes.
I could possibly assist you with.
Yes.
And we can come to the understanding together, helping you to understand that. We can work on that and like, oh man, I feel much better. I'm not stressed.
Right.
I'm not experiencing, my hair is no longer falling out.
Right.
I'm not overeating
Right.
because of those things. However, some of the things I'm like, yeah, so let me send you over to Angela. Let me send you to Dr. E.
Right, right.
Let me send you this list, right?
Right,
So that would be another, I guess, stigma. They're just lumping it all into one basket.
Right. If we do not break the silence of what we are going through, then that's when we're talking about chronic stress and things developing in the body because we are suppressing, right? And so I'm glad that education is also a part of this because, like you said, the Bible talks about we lack, we perish for a lack of knowledge. And so just like you stated, I have to assess what I am capable to do, but also let you know that what you're going through is natural. Some things you're going through is natural.
It's a part of life.
Right. It's not, it's going to cause you to have low moments, right? If you are constantly under stress every day and don't have an outlet, then you're going to be in your low moments. So sometimes it don't take a pill. Sometimes it takes common sense and talking to someone to state that, look, you're not crazy.
I like that.
You know?
I like that. Yeah, I love that. And even just thinking about you saying those low moments and learning more about the neuroscience side and the chemicals that are released based on our emotions and our feelings and how we can, on the flip side, reverse that. Get some of that serotonin, that oxytocin, that endorphins going on. You know, you having that low moment, you process it. How do I work through it? Okay, now maybe I need to get my ass up and go get some sun. Maybe I need to go to the gym. Maybe I need to eat better, you know. So it's the other side of that understanding that it's not just, something's really wrong with you, right?
Yeah.
So I like that.
And that you're not simply just a victim. And I love that you brought up epigenetics. I love when Bruce Lipton talks about it. So the thing is, we have what's in the genetic code, then we have gene expression. So it's like your environment, if you're suppressing, not only is your immune system lower when you're in stress and you're suppressing emotion, but also your gene expression is going to reflect the negative things. So it's kind of like if you have diabetes that run through your family, it doesn't mean that you're going to get diabetes. It means depending on your environment, your thought process, and the food that you're eating, which is considered your environment, the gene can express itself as you being diabetic.
Yeah.
But it's your choices. So you're not simply a victim. You're not simply saying, well, this is in me and I have to.
Nothing about
No,
Right.
you're able to control how those genes express themselves depending on your habits, your mindsets, and if you believe that you can overcome this or not.
Yeah.
So the power is back in your hands.
I was about to say something.
I forgot.
Well, okay.
I lost it. It went away.
All right, y'all. This has been an excellent conversation. Part 1. Tune in to part 2 as we express about what helps and heals mental health. Before we go, we always love to leave our takeaways. And so let's start with you, Jess. A takeaway for our people today.
She looks so surprised, like we're not going to do the takeaways. Like, I didn't know
It's going to be first.
You want us to come back to you?
I know.
No.
The takeaway is you're not defined by what you might be experiencing. So make sure when you say I am, that it's what you truly want to identify yourself in. And it's not about not acknowledging that you might have things that you are challenged with, but it's not immersing yourself into a condition and realizing that you're much more than that.
That's good.
Yeah.
I'm going to take the word that Angie just said, and I'm going to say break the silence. I like that. Break the silence about what you are experiencing in a safe space with somebody that you trust. And, figure out what's going on with you, basically.
and I'm going to add to that, it's your responsibility. It's your responsibility. You have to reach out. You have to, again, it's part of breaking the silence. Don't look for anyone else to point it out to you. If you're attempting to figure it out on your own and you realize that it's not getting you anywhere, reach out to someone. There's always someone there to help. And even if you don't know the words that know the words to say. One of the things that my husband and I, we call it a thought snowball, right? We call it a thought snowball. This is probably not going to make any, we're so used to it now. Of course, we'll be like, so having a thought snowball, and we already know it's going to sound jumbled up. Things are going to be all over the place. It's almost like giving yourself permission to color outside of the lines.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The freedom is there. And I promise you, connect with the right individual. They'll be able to discern and then help and direct you. So It's your responsibility.
And to add to that, I would say mental health is about education. Educate yourself about your why, that you are, really taking this journey of your mental health. You are not your diagnoses, and you are not who people say that you are. Do not take on the titles of being crazy or something's wrong with you. Understand who you are. Be educated about who you are. And also educate yourself on who you are seeking help from as well. Okay? Because that is your responsibility as well. And so we're going to wrap it up. Until next time, peace.
Thank you for joining us on this week's episode of Xcapade to Xpansion podcast. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe.